All right. Can you hear me? I am the AV team's worst nightmare because I did theater in high school and I can project. But thank you all for coming. It's awesome. And a special double thank you to my wife, because as I was walking out the door to come here, she said, "Did you pack backup shorts?" Of course I didn't. I already had enough clothes. It's going to be 2 days. I'm going to be fine. I don't need anything extra. These are my backup shorts. The other ones perished in a margarita pizza-related incident we shall not speak of further. But what am I up here doing? I'm supposed to tell you things. I'm going to tell a self-aggrandizing story, and then I'm going to complain a bunch, and then you all clap for me. I think that's how this works. So let's talk a decade ago. I was at a startup called Runnable. And at the time I joined, Runnable had 10 people and 0 customers, which is the wrong number of customers to have. Follow me for more business advice. And we were trying to fix that. So it's a startup. We got all these people in an office working together. Looks something like this. We were moving fast. And boy, oh boy, were we breaking things. Seemed every day something would go wrong in production. I changed this component and that whole page blows up. The back end adds a query. The front end goes, "What are you talking about?" And everything falls apart. Make one CSS change and now everything is blue. So I, a brave, smart, young engineer, and I mean that in the derogatory sense, stood up in front of everyone and said, "I have the solution to our problems. We should write unit tests." And surprisingly, they all listened to me. And so we added a unit test framework, and we added coverage reports, and we added a test ratchet so that any change must increase coverage over time or else immediately reject it automatically. And we did a lot of this. We tested the crap out of the old stuff, added new stuff, and made sure that was all tested as well, shipped it, and 2 things happened. The first thing that happened is, well, delivery slowed down a little bit. But we'll make up for that, right? Because then we don't need to fix all the old things that keep breaking. Well, the other thing that happened was everything kept breaking. And this isn't to talk about, why you shouldn't write unit tests, but rather, I'm sure the TDD diehards out there all know what I had just described. All of our problems were not unit test problems. Why did we spend all this time on unit testing? And the answer is we had fallen into a trap. And this is my first, but not last time, falling into the trap of looking at this wonderful treasure chest full of all the tools and patterns and resources for us. We've got so many great things in here. Tests, types, architecture patterns, all sorts of things. We get primary database, backup database, primary shorts, backup shorts, everything's in here. And it gets better every day, and we get to come to conferences like this and say, all these cool things, LLMs, new patterns, cool things like that. But so often we look at this giant toolbox and say, wow, that's so cool. I would love to use this tool, and don't think about the problem that we're trying to solve, and it stops being a treasure chest and starts being a trap. And that trap has teeth, and it grabs us, and it pulls us and our time and our team's time in, and all of a sudden, we're going nowhere. You can think about this in this morning, Tali's tech debt talk as well. Look at this great database architecture pattern, but missed the forest for the trees and had to go back to the drawing board. I call this pattern generic good stuff. Because we have good things, we have a treasure chest, that's really cool. But if you take those tools and you apply them generically and say to everyone, hey, you should write unit tests just the way I do, and that's what everyone should do forever, then we've fallen for the trap. But wait a second. This is not Lead Dev's cool conference for beginner engineers who want to do cool things and avoid all the mistakes. Lead Dev, you want to start that? Call me. This is StaffPlus. This is the conference for engineers, and we've been doing this for so long we don't want to admit how long we've been doing it. We know how this works. When you became a staff engineer, you were knighted, as I think this is how this works, and your manager takes the sword of promotion and taps both shoulders, "Rise, staff engineer." You're handed the 2 holy words that we've heard throughout this whole conference, which are, "It depends." Thank you. Looks something like this. So wait a second, we all know the answer to generic good stuff. It depends. Why am I up here complaining? Well, I think what's important for us is we've learned and we've made the mistake and earned the merit badge and moved on. How can we help beginner engineers and beginner teams avoid this trap, or if we see them already falling into it, pull them out? So why do we fall for this trap in the first place? I mean, it's good stuff. Do you really want to stand in front of your team and say, we shouldn't have good things? That won't get you going very far. But on the other hand, this can not only be a trap for a team or a project and cause it delays, but it can be a career trap as well, where all of a sudden you become the testing guy and your credibility takes a nosedive as you try to get everyone else to do things your way. So, what can we do? Because as a former beginner engineer myself, it can often feel like this, where I have this grand idea and I'm walking along the beach and all of a sudden the StaffPlus person comes over and says, "It depends," and I have no idea what's going on. So what do? We have to bring context to these teams. We have to all the teams that we're responsible for to help them avoid this trap. And the answer to this was already given yesterday. Be a navigator. But in reality, we can't all sit there and have the CTO's ear. And so what do? I have 3 questions that I am kind of constantly asking to almost an annoying degree to my superiors, one of whom is in the audience right now and nodding her head a lot. And I'd like to share those questions with you now. The first is, what are we trying to do here? What are we trying to accomplish? And at Runnable, like I said, we had 0 customers, and we wanted to have more than that. And in order to have more than 0 customers, we needed a product. And we had some of the parts there, but not all of them. So the next question then becomes, what are the biggest obstacles? Obstacles, yes. Jason and the Argonauts, Obstacles, famous lieutenant there. What are the biggest obstacles in our way? Well, if we're trying to build something for our customers and half of the puzzle pieces are there and half of them aren't, we need to figure out how to fill in the rest of the puzzle. It won't be a great puzzle. It's going to be a minimum viable puzzle, but it'll be there. And finally, what are the effective ways to overcome those obstacles? So, okay, well, we need to build something that kind of works for all the rest of the puzzle pieces and hand it to design partners who are already understanding this is very beta code. And if we sit there and polish all of those puzzle pieces to make them look really good before we're sure we even need them, then we're wasting time and falling for the generic good stuff trap. If you want to learn more about this, and again, the speakers from earlier stealing my slides, good strategy, bad strategy, I would say this is almost mandatory reading for StaffPlus. If you're StaffPlus, you're here, it's awesome. You need to start thinking about strategy because that's going to influence everything you do. This is a really good intro. The next thing is Kill It With Fire, which is a book on sociology and how organizations change. There are several chapters in here that cover why does generic good stuff happen and what can tech leaders do about it. And finally, and most obviously, the Staff Engineer's Path, which will give you a much better idea in much more detailed ways of how to approach teams and help them out of this trap. And here's all 3 of them on one slide. You may take a picture now. All right, that's what I've got for you. Thank you.